Before the empire, before the legend, there was only the river. The Yangtze, carving its path through a primordial world, nourishing a landscape untouched by ambition. Along its misty banks grew a stubborn shrub, clinging to life, offering a fruit that was anything but a gift. It was small, hard, and intensely bitter, a food of last resort, its stone pit encased in a thin, fuzzy flesh that puckered the tongue. For countless generations, this was its only story, a forgotten footnote in the sprawling epic of botany. But then, a quiet revolution began in the soil. Neolithic hands, calloused and discerning, started a slow, patient alchemy. Guided by an instinct for survival, they chose the slightly larger fruit, the one with a hint less sourness. They saved its seed, planting a prayer for a better harvest. They were the accidental architects of a future delicacy, unknowingly nurturing a dormant genetic lottery, a biological whisper that promised sweetness. Millennium by millennium, that whisper became a roar. The peach was reborn through human intention. The bitterness receded, surrendering to an astonishing nectar. The flesh swelled, becoming succulent and heavy with juice, its skin blushing from a pale green to the color of a courtier's silk. This transformed treasure soon found its way from the humble village to the imperial court, captivating emperors and poets. Yet, its journey was far from over. The fruit's greatest transformation was not of its flesh, but of its very soul. How did a simple food, born of hardship and cultivated by patience, become something more? How did it transcend the earthly realm to become a sacred symbol, the divine key to eternal life? Long before it was a global symbol of sweetness, the primordial peach was a hard, bitter secret, clinging to the misty banks of China's Yangtze River. This was a fruit of survival, not pleasure, its flesh fibrous, its taste a sharp, astringent warning. Yet, in the crucible of ancient Chinese mysticism, this humble plant was not merely cultivated, it was alchemized. A transformation driven not by hunger, but by the profound human quest for eternity. Taoist lore provided the blueprint for this obsession, whispering of a celestial garden hidden atop the mythical Kunlun Mountains. This was the domain of the Queen Mother of the West, and here grew the xiantao, the peaches of immortality, which blossomed only once every 3 millennia. To consume one was to transcend mortal limits and join the ranks of the gods. This powerful myth became a spiritual mandate, fueling a horticultural arms race within the walls of the Forbidden City. Imperial gardeners, acting as both botanists and artists, embarked on a centuries-long quest for perfection. Through generations of meticulous selection, they guided the fruit's very essence. They systematically silenced the ancient genes for bitterness and amplified the delicate expressions of sugar, size, and its iconic velvety skin. Modern science can now pinpoint these as a series of precise DNA mutations, a biological masterpiece engineered by human belief. The result was no longer a wild survivor, but an artifact of culture, a perfect, golden orb whose delicate fuzz held the promise of paradise. A luxury coveted by emperors and a potent symbol of life everlasting. It created the first true agricultural surplus of the fruit, priming it for an inevitable journey out of the Middle Kingdom. The peach's journey from deity to commodity began not with the flesh, but with its stone. A hardened vessel carrying a genetic secret, the pit became precious cargo. It traveled west along the nascent, treacherous arteries of global trade, the Silk Road. This was no simple exchange. It was a high-stakes gamble against blistering deserts, frozen mountain passes, and the constant threat of banditry. Each caravan that threaded the needle of the Pamirs was a fragile link in a new global supply chain, and its most valuable asset wasn't silk, but the future of an orchard. In Persia, this Chinese secret found fertile ground and even more fertile ambition. Persian agronomists became the world's first masters of peach cultivation on a commercial scale. Through meticulous grafting and selection, they engineered larger, sweeter, more succulent varieties, the legendary golden peaches. So complete was their horticultural domination that when Roman emissaries first tasted it, they named it Prunus persica, the Persian apple. A profound geographical misnomer, an act of branding that rewrote the fruit's history and cemented Persia's place at the center of this lucrative new trade. This rebranding supercharged its value. No longer just a delicacy, the golden peach became a currency of diplomacy, a tool of soft power. A gift of these fruits between rival empires was a carefully weighted political statement, a display of wealth, influence, and control over a coveted luxury. From the quiet gardens of Chinese mystics to the tense courts of competing emperors, the peach had completed its first global conquest. The price of this expansion was its mystery, its sacred origins diluted by the vast, impersonal currents of commerce. The peach's immortality is no longer a myth. In 2026, it is a desperate race against time. The eternal summer promised in its flesh now withers on the branch, as scorching heat and unpredictable frosts threaten the world's orchards. The ancient gift is becoming a ghost, its future encoded not in poetry, but in peril. In sterile laboratories, the modern alchemists have risen to the challenge. They seek not an elixir for the emperor, but resilience for the species itself. Their philosopher's stone is CRISPR technology, their scroll, the genetic map. With microscopic precision, they edit the peach's ancient code, rewriting its story to include a new chapter on survival. They are fighting to preserve the very essence of what made it divine in the first place. Here, the final secret is decoded. The myth of the immortal peach was never just a story. It was a prescient recognition of biological truth. The life-giving sugars that fueled our ancestors, the unique genetic plasticity that allowed it to adapt and thrive, this was the true magic. Early humans, guided by a simple desire for sweetness, became the fruit's first, unknowing geneticists. They selected the sweetest, the hardiest, the most vibrant specimens, unconsciously guiding its evolution across millennia. We are now merely completing their work with conscious intention. From a single, fuzzy mutation on a bitter, forgotten shrub along the misty banks of the Yangtze, a global icon was born. Its journey is our own, written in pulp and seed. It reveals how human desire can latch onto a biological accident. And through centuries of cultivation, commerce, and creativity, elevated into something that truly is immortal, an idea.